Well, good Friday afternoon, Midlands. I'm Chief Meteorologist Efren Afonte, here with meteorologist meteorologist Daniel Bonds. We want to give you an update on what is going on with the weather right now. So let's first start out with what I have on the screen. Here's the latest information on what is happening all throughout our Midland communities and pretty much South Carolina. There's already a little bit of freezing rain and sleet developing in areas on the Grand Strand, and we got widespread precipitation. It's in the form of rain right now, moving into areas of the low country, but you can see there's a lot more coming in out of east central and southeastern portions of Georgia. A little bit of very light snow flurries, and it's very light. It's already moving through the upstate. More concentrated into our Midland communities, there's already some light precipitation in the form of probably freezing drizzle or maybe some sleet pellets in the areas pretty much just to the south of Interstate 20, maybe in areas of Lee County, northern Sumter, possibly lower Richland. I will tell you that coming out of lower Richland, heading towards the station, I did see that the roads were a little bit wet, just very little, but the concentration of rainfall we're looking at right now is in this area coming through Aiken County, now in southern Saluda. Very light precipitation in the form of maybe drizzle if it's hitting the ground is in central portions of Orangeburg County. But this is the area we're watching right now. From extreme northern portions of Aiken, southern Saluda, getting into northern Edgefield, and then backing into at least the southern half of McCormick County. This is where we're showing right now where the temperatures are at least at the surface starting to drop below freezing, not just at 32, but below freezing. So if the radar is indicating right, although this is still pretty far away from the radar at Columbia Metropolitan Airport, I suspect that at best, this is probably more in the form of drizzle, but could be transitioning over to freezing drizzle. Here's the precipitation that's coming down. Here's the setup. Not only do we have the precipitation slowly moving into the Midlands, but temperatures when you get into the north central and eastern portions of the Midlands are right at 32 degrees. Well, from Columbia to Lexington, everything south and west is still above freezing. The important thing is that the temperatures have not dropped below freezing yet, but at least at the surface and probably a couple hundred feet above, the winds are now coming out of the northeast upwards of 10 to 15 miles an hour. If you remember on Sunday, we had a lot of the rain, and we noticed that nothing was freezing on the ground, but everything above the trees and the power lines were accumulating the ice. So this is one component that we're looking at that's somewhat similar to Sunday. The wind chills, though, are definitely well below freezing. So what we're watching now is when the temperatures are going to be dropping below freezing. Even though the wind chill is already there, we're waiting for these temperatures to drop. Winter weather advisory is still in effect for all of the Midland counties. And we just got word that we have a possibility that portions, if not all, of central Midlands may go under this winter storm warning, which is in effect right now for only Kershaw and Lee counties. Let me explain the reason why. At this point right now, what we're looking at and what we have thus far is that the precipitation and freezing rain is going to be starting very soon. By late afternoon, so give or take before or after sunset, we're looking at everything to switch over to at least freezing rain, if not all sleet. As we get into later on tonight, primarily in the northern half of the Midlands, sometime between 7 and 11 p.m., that's where we're expecting things to start switching over to some type of snow flurries. Accumulation, that's a different ball of wax, but at least seeing some snowflakes, it'll be between 7 and 11 tonight. What we're looking also is sometime after sunset, there may be accumulations of this sleet on the roads. It's going to be very little, but as we go throughout the evening and especially into the overnight, the roads are going to be slick and hazardous. We're still looking at the possibility of some scattered power outages, but no doubt as we get into the evening, the wind chills are going to be dropping into the upper 20s. Here's the whole setup. Precipitation now starting to move into South Carolina, a lot more in Georgia, but the precipitation in northern Georgia and the upstate is already turning into snow, and we still have a lot of precipitation down in the Gulf that still has to make its way up. Now, meteorologist Daniel Bonds, Alex Calabia, as well as Corey Smith have been looking at it. And Daniel, the data right now is getting more and more interesting, especially for the people looking for snow.
Yeah, and I appreciate the Fantasy Island reference too. I think some people are going to wish they were on one of these warmer islands over the next few days, because we are expecting some cold conditions, and we are expecting those wintry conditions to continue to spread across the Midlands. So let's kind of break down this forecast for you, basically hour by hour. This would be late this afternoon, early evening. This is 6 o'clock on Friday. Obviously today is Friday, and you notice that widespread possible freezing rain, maybe some sleet, and you look up towards the north in parts of Newberry and Fairfield counties. At that point, maybe a little bit of snow falling across at least the northern half of the Midlands. That colder air is going to continue to kind of stream down towards the south. This is 8 o'clock. You still do have that freezing rain, some sleet, and then up towards parts of Fairfield, Newberry, maybe even Saluda and Kershaw counties at this point. You got a little bit of snow, and that snow line is going to continue to sink towards the south, it looks like, as we continue to push through the nighttime hours of Friday. You notice that snow line right along, or maybe even just slightly south of I-20 at this point, and it looks like it's going to go even further south as we get to about midnight or so. But you look out towards the west, we get to midnight or so, you're talking about the moisture starts to decrease, so some drier air starts to fill in behind the big, well, I'll say the wintry mix, and the little bit of snow, a little bit of sleet. This would be 2 a.m. on Saturday. At that point, a lot of drying is going to be occurring. So at that point, things are going to really start to dry up. 4 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, everything's basically out of here. And then by the time a lot of us wake up Saturday morning, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock or so, sunshine does return. This is 10 o'clock Saturday morning. So you're talking mid-morning hours, those clouds will continue to decrease, and that should help with anything that's remaining outside during this wintry precipitation. Now, I'm going to show you several models. This is our in-house model. This is the one we've been showing a lot of. This is the latest snowfall forecast, the GRAF, the in-house forecast model here that we use a lot of. And you'll notice this particular model showing the heavier amounts in the northern half of the Midlands, central Midlands, a little bit lighter. And then you go to the southern and eastern half of the Midlands, you're talking about just basically trace amounts. This is one of the forecast models. Here's another one of the short-range models. This is the HER. This is the one that the National Weather Service uses a lot, and they're really kind of basing, I believe, their forecast, at least that winter storm warning forecast, on this particular model, because you notice the heavier amounts are over towards Kershaw County and Lee County, but the latest trend is showing that slightly heavier amount of snow kind of sneak into portions of Richland and Lexington counties. So this is another model we'll be watching closely. But another third short-range model, the NAM, kind of showing the same idea, showing that heavier snow over towards parts of Richland, Kershaw, and Lee counties, with elsewhere kind of getting a little bit of snow action, except for the southern and eastern half of the Midlands with just trace amounts at that point. Show you the ice, because we're not just talking about snow, you're talking about that potential for ice, especially in the southern and maybe eastern half of the Midlands down towards Orangeburg, maybe Manning as well, maybe a little bit of a glaze out there. So that could cause obviously some traffic issues. A little bit of snow and some ice could cause some problems, especially those bridges and overpasses. So snowfall forecast is kind of an overview. You can kind of see slightly heavier amounts in the northern half of the Midlands and maybe a dusting or so in the central. And then the further south you go, those amounts certainly do decrease with just trace amounts at that point. Still have to talk about a glaze across the area. So not like we saw, say, Sunday, when we had all that ice in parts of Newberry, Fairfield, even parts of Kershaw County and northern portions of Richland County. It won't be anything like that. You're talking about less amounts of ice and maybe more amounts of snow. Personally, I'm taking snow over ice any day. I think most people will. That ice is not good news whatsoever. But you could have some travel problems early during the evening hours, and then very early Saturday. Once we get to about midday Saturday, the sunshine comes out and things should start to improve greatly. Our satellite radar composite effort kind of broke this down just a while ago, showing some wintry mix kind of moving into parts of the Midlands. That's going to be the case as we continue to move through the rest of this evening and tonight. So do want to mention it one more time. All of the Midlands under a winter weather advisory, with the exception Kershaw and Lee. They're currently, you guys are under this winter storm warning, and that continues until tomorrow morning. So we'll bring you more updates on air and online as needed. As always, we'll be updating things on social media. Myself, meteorologist Corey Smith, Chief Meteorologist Efren Fonte, and Alex. He's off right now, but he's going to be updating things as well. We'll bring you more on air and online as needed. We appreciate you watching. We'll see you back here in just a little bit.